Hello, everyone, and welcome to Booked Out with Bree. I am so happy, so excited that you all are here today. And I'm really excited for this episode because I have someone very special with me today. And the fun part is, I just met her in person 2 weekends ago, and it was an immediate, like, oh my gosh, I love you, and I can't wait to be friends for life and do fun biz things together. Just her energy is magnetic and pure and joyful and just all the good things that you'd want to stand for in the world when it comes to, a friend, a leader in business, a mom. Like this is exactly what Abby stands for. She's the founder of Workwoom. She's got some really fun things coming up that we're so excited to talk about at the end of this episode and has also the most amazing story, which we're going to dive into today. Abby, I'm so happy that you're here.
Oh my God, what an amazing intro. I'm excited. That intro just jazzed me up.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yay.
Well, yeah, so we met at one of our mutual friends' mastermind weekends. And just like the second you started talking, I was like, "Oh, hey, who are you?" I can't wait to get to know you better.
Same, same.
Yeah. And you shared tidbits of your story, and I was like, my jaw literally dropped. So I'm so excited to dive into that today because I think you really stand for like the grit, tenacity, resilience, staying pure and grounded in the midst of life. I mean, you've got a crazy story.
Yeah. Thanks for reflecting that. I think, yeah, sometimes I feel like I think I said this to you, but sometimes I feel like being a Scorpio, it's like I'm like the shadow side poster child. Because I'm like, here's like you want to go through the sludge. It's like, yeah, I got to the lotus, but it was born from the mud. And it's like, yeah, I feel like really. I mean, there's been a lot. I also like, have so much joy. And also like I really want to normalize the shadow and the shine of motherhood, of running a biz. Like nothing is off the table to me because I want to talk about I mean, like in life, in this podcast, like we have to be able to allow the full spectrum of human experience for us to thrive, or else shame comes in and, there's all of that. So yes, all the grit.
I love it. Yes. I remember first learning about that concept when I read the book Existential Kink. Have you read that?
Oh, do you know what? I have that book and I haven't read it yet. But I know
I
the
mean,
concepts. Like I know
yeah,
the, yeah, like
it's
having is
exactly
proof
what
of
you were
wanting and
totally. It's exactly what you were saying of just it's like like for me, one of my realizations in that book was I love to shop and I like to spend money and I
yeah.
always felt guilt and shame around that. And the
Uh-huh.
book's like you just own it. You're like, yeah, I love to shop and I love to spend money. Like,
Yeah,
boom. So,
great.
yes.
Love it.
Yes.
Yes, and I feel like that piece, so there's something I teach called waving your freak flag.
Mm.
And I work primarily with entrepreneurs and solopreneurs and creatives and artists. And I think that without bringing conscious awareness to how we build or birth a biz, we're going to replicate what we see in society at large, which is led by men and thus built on male hormones, like a 24-hour hormonal cycle instead of a 28-day hormonal cycle. And I think we're gonna be like, oh, I need to work like 5 to 6 days a week, 8 to 9 hours a day. Like this is how I answer emails. This is how I price things. This is how I do. And I know you like freaking get this. Like especially the business you run was so much about escaping that hour for dollar and like really evolving it. But the waving the freak flag is like, okay, what is the thing that you like kind of don't want your clients to know about you? And I dare you to put that front and center. And I dare you to actually create, I call it your biz family tree. It's like your support network so that you get to do the thing. So it's like, okay, great. Like, so maybe I'll ask you, I know you're interviewing me, but like, how did that realization shape shift your relationship with shopping? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Okay, I love this question. I would say that I just enjoyed it more because there
yeah,
wasn't guilt, there wasn't like the stigma, there wasn't shame, and this is the crazy part, which I know you'll agree with. It neutralizes the desire because I think when you have these
yes.
shadow sides, it's like you're told not to do it, and so you want to, and then you go overboard. And suddenly I was like, oh yeah, I'll shop when I want to, but it's not like this secret little thing, like, gotta hide the boxes before my husband gets home.
Totally. Totally. Yes. Yes. It takes away that like forbidden energy.
Yes.
And oh my God, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So juicy. All right.
I love
Well,
it.
let's go back to you. Let's start with your story of, I mean, you're a mom, you're a business owner. You
Hmm.
also, I know, are super educated and I think certified in health and, right? Wellness,
Hmm.
all of that.
Yeah.
How,
Yeah.
like, how did you get to that point?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, it's like, well, I was born on a Tuesday. No, I'm kidding. I had always had a love of wellness. So my first career was in the performing arts. I was a professional actress, musical theater actress, dancer, singer. And I did that from about 14 to 25. And then when I left the performing arts, which that's a whole story, I did a Broadway tour at 18. Actually, I was 19. I was 19 when I did the Broadway tour. I have a whole episode on it on my podcast. But yeah, have always expressed myself through movement, always had a real connection to like, I would never have had this terminology, but like really somatic practices. And so I found yoga and just fell in love and decided to study it. And first I studied it, I studied at Karma Kids in New York City and taught kids yoga because I love kids. I grew up working at summer camps and just like love, love, love kiddos. And so I was like, oh, I'll be a kids yoga teacher. And then went on to study. I was like, oh, this is really cool. Maybe I'll study with one of my teachers, start teaching adults. And so I really exclusively taught yoga for 3 or 4 years, taught yoga and dance in San Francisco, and then just have always loved nutrition. I think just like being a dancer, being a yogi, it's like I want to feel good. And so always had a curiosity and just a lot of like self-discovery and like self-taught around all things nutrition. So I went back to school for the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, got certified through them, and then really launched a full wellness brand. And so I always say it was just like tied in a bow. I was like, okay, I teach yoga, I coach, or sorry, I teach yoga and coach around nutrition, private clients. I did a lot of international, like real luxury yoga retreats. And I kind of was like, oh, I have it all figured out. And I feel like this is how things are when you're like, oh, yes, I know exactly what I'm doing and have it all figured out. It's like it all changes. And I had some friends in my community that we would do kind of mastermind. It's like I didn't have a term for it yet,
Mhm.
but I had friends that were photographers and makeup artists and designers and like real creatives. And we were like, how are you doing invoicing? How are you handling taxes? How are you handling marketing? How are you? And so I was like, I created a meetup with a dear friend of mine, Lane. We called it Better Biz Babes, a play on the Better Biz Bureau. And we started meeting once a month. And it was just like kind of like a support thing. And it was like, the first one was great. The second one, everyone brought a friend. The third time, I was like, I think I need to cap it. And then the fourth time, I was like, I think I need to ticket this, and it really evolved from there. And it was just like probably like most things born out of my own desire and like what I needed in my life. And I was never like, oh, I'm an expert in this. I was just like, I'm making shit up alongside all of y'all. Let's do this together. And from there, and I've always had like a real obsession and love of goal setting and visioning, and what I've now moved on to call dream casting. And it's like, what do you want to do with your life? At 8, I was like, I'm going to be a Broadway star. I'm going to be on Broadway. Like, I've always been someone that had really big goals. And so then I started weaving that in and really facilitating these spaces more. Um, and then it was like the first time we ticketed, I gave 100% of the proceeds away to a it was a organization that helps support survivors of sexual assault. And then, so it was really just like such a beautiful offering. And then I was like, oh my God, this is so much time. I need to make a little money on this, So then it was like half to nonprofit, half to me. And it really evolved. My dear friend Ksenia came in and it became like a kind of a weekend training, like 2 8-hour days. And then it evolved into a full like 160-person conference that I ran. Um,
Wow. Wow.
yeah. Isn't that wild? And the
That
whole
is
time
wild.
the whole time I was still doing nutrition and yoga, and I was like, oh, I'm a biz owner facilitating spaces for other biz owners. And again, I never identified as a biz coach. None of that. But I was just like, I'm going to create spaces that I wish existed.
Mm.
And at the time, I mean, there was probably like Create and Cultivate existed, this kind of big produced event, which I love them. I'm going this year, but I didn't have these really intimate spaces that were based around the somatics. Like my vision and my dream was a space where women could gather and like have yummy matcha and do breath work and like sit on sheepskin and like very like aesthetic, just beautiful. And then be like, all right, pull up your P&L. Let's fucking go. You know what I mean? I was
Yes.
like, this is like what I want to see in
Oh,
the world.
yes.
And so, yeah, I mean, that's really it. And then from there, people start asking me, hey, can I like buy you coffee and pick your brain? How are you doing X, Y, and Z? And I remember joking with my boyfriend at the time, now spoiler alert, husband. And I remember saying, like, gosh, I almost feel like I'm getting more questions about business than I am about nutrition. And again, it was like I wouldn't have quite even called it imposter syndrome because it's not even like I wanted to be a biz coach at the time, but it was like sometimes I think your path chooses you, you know, and you're like it's like a magnet, it's like pulling you and you can't quite explain it. And so honestly, that was it, Brie. And then I remember I was having all these coffee dates and kind of these one-off, 40-minute chats with people. And I was actually feeling really frustrated because being something that I realized that I was doing in the nutrition world was I was helping someone take a really big dream, right? Losing 40 pounds, healing Crohn's and like bleeding ulcers, I mean, like big stuff in their life and taking this huge goal and breaking it down into daily actionable steps. And then they would do them and it would like blow their mind because they would heal and they're like, that wasn't even hard. I'm like, I know, I'm sneaky. It's small. It's like low and slow, but we get you there, you know? And
Yeah.
it's not even that slow. It's like after 6 months, they would really have these results. And so I was like, oh yeah, I just do that same thing. I mean, it's coaching, right? I was doing the same thing with with people that were asking me about biz stuff. But yeah, I mean, that was truly it. And then, yeah, this frustration came because I wasn't walking them through 3 or 6 months. It was like one phone call or one coffee date. And it kind of felt like, wait, no, I just got to know you. I want to like hold your hand through everything you're birthing and everything you're shaping. And that was truly it. And then I remember when I said to my husband, I was like, I actually feel like I want this to be an offer because I want an intake form. I want to know people's story. Like, I don't just want this like one off. I want it to be this deep relationship where I get to actually steward and, I mean, it's definitely them doing it, but at least like co-support real change. And I was like, maybe I could like create an offer, like kind of like a biz mentor offer where I really get to know people, da da da. But I didn't do it. And then the next day, Brie, I had 2 emails from 2 different biz owners. One who is now one of my best friends. She owned a yoga studio in Norway, and she was like, "Hey, do you mentor yoga studio owners?" I was like, "Yes, I do. Here's my Calendly link." And I like called my web designer, and I'm like, "Can you add business coaching to my website? Can you add a button here?" And I mean, honestly, the rest is history. It's like I never ever quit yoga and nutrition. And as you know, I'm leading a somatic biz retreat where we do yoga in the morning and breath work, and then we move into biz masterminding and strategy. But that's really it. I mean, it was like almost like a crowding out. I never quit that world. I just kind of found myself really being called to support biz owners. And I think like a lot of us, I really did it alone for so long. And I have an incredibly creative family and like I said, dear creative friends, but I didn't have a lot of like entrepreneurial elders. You know what I mean? I didn't have these people that were giving me their sage advice. I was just like making shit up. And so for me, my dharma and my joy is creating spaces for other female entrepreneurs to really connect to their intuition and practice togetherness. Because otherwise we can just it feels like, well, I'm on an island. That's who I am. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Like this is a together kind of thing. So that is kind of the story in a nutshell.
Oh my gosh. I love this. There were so many gold nuggets too. I was like, oh, I didn't know that. What? The conference? That's amazing.
Yeah.
Something you said really stood out to me. I mean, all the things stood out to me, but you had said you created what you wish you had.
Yeah.
And like for all of you guys who are listening right now, that is it. And then,
Mhm.
like you said, I mean, it's the intuition and trusting the nudges and like how, oh my gosh, how you shared you had this desire, you hadn't even acted on it, and then it met you back in your inbox the
Yeah.
next day. I'm like, that is crazy, but that's what happens when
Yeah.
you trust your intuition and you move on it and you just like you open up the desire and you're like, yes, okay, like here we go. Like
Yeah.
that. So I love that you said that. That's always, and I loved how you said too, is like your path kind of finds you. Because
Yeah.
it does, especially when you create what you wish you had and you trust that and you
Yeah,
listen to your heart and move on it. Oh, so
totally.
good.
Oh my God, totally. And I know like over the weekend we talked a ton about intuition and that being like a real theme in my life and biz. And I think it's so easy. I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel like what I see in like the entrepreneurial space is like, what's the method? What's your strategy? What's your technique? What's your content calendar? And like, listen, I do all that. I love all that shit. Like, give me project management software and I'm drooling. Like, love that. And also, that's only effective, I believe, and it's only sustainable if we are guiding that with our intuition. Because otherwise, I think it's again kind of back to the male biz model. It's so easy to lead our biz with our head. And I can do that, but that's when I start to feel burnout, actually. Like historically, that's when I get burnout when I'm like, this makes sense. I should just rinse and repeat this. I should do this and this. Or like, this sold out. I should do it again or whatever. Instead of like, what do I want to do? Like, what brings me joy? What makes me come alive? What makes me like giddy? Like, oh my God, looking over your shoulders, like, is this real? Am I actually getting paid to do? Like, that's the kind of shit I want to do.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think intuition and being kind of called or pulled towards things has been a huge part of not just my business but my life. Like I told you the story of how I met my husband, and it
Oh
was the
my
same like
gosh.
magnet, you know, it was
We
that
have time. We need to tell that story.
it's so good.
With the
I
accents
can
too.
condense it. I can condense it.
So good. Oh, that was so funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. I would say, and tell me if you're this way too. Maybe not, because it sounds like you've always been deeply tapped into your intuition. So I learned about like feminine energy and intuition through business. I mean, of course, I've, followed my intuition before that, but I never really knew and or honed that ability. And I remember, I think it was 7 months into starting my program. And one of my mentors was like, I just started working with him. And he's like, it's clear you know the strategy. Like, you're following all the business rules. Your next step is now to forget those rules because they're intuitive and subconscious and follow your intuition. And in this is gonna make you laugh. In my masculine self, I was like, oh, well, how do you do that? What are the steps for that? They're like, that is
Yeah.
not how it works.
You're like, cool, can you give me the roadmap for my intuition,
Yes,
please?
exactly.
Well, I mean, you know what's funny? As someone who has led so much of her life via like pleasure and joy and intuition, I actually relate to that recently because I think like my entry into motherhood, like I've shared with you that I had a really emergent traumatic birth experience that was, there was a lot there, just with like personal physical pain and disability and pandemic and just a lot. And that initiation for me, and this is probably gonna, I know so many mamas are listening, like that initiation for me, what like a big part of the maid into mother was like, you are in service of this being. Like, what does she want? What does she need? And actually, I think no judgment, no self-judgment here, but I think I kind of overcorrected. And
Mm,
so I lost that habit for a while, actually. So like I understand what you're saying. Like even as someone who is actively prioritizing and espousing intuitive practices, like not so long ago was there a time where I was like, I don't actually know what I want right now.
mm.
So I don't think it's linear, I think we can move in and out of that for, I mean, I have at least. That's all I can say.
Yeah. So how did you navigate that when you were like, whoa, like what, getting my feet on the ground, what do I want?
Yeah.
How did you lead
Well,
yourself?
I mean, mine was so woven with trauma. And I think a huge part of it, I mean, I worked with so many therapists, but I think the biggest piece is like bringing it back to somatics. I found this amazing yoga therapist. My dear friend Jordan, who's also a yoga therapist, referred this woman to me, Jen Wooten in Austin. And all of her work is around PTSD. She only works with people that have PTSD. It's so amazing. And she's like this beautiful, gentle, brilliant soul. And just like all of her life's work is like all of her research is nervous system and PTSD. And I will say that type of work really brought me into presence with what I was feeling because I think like when you're in survival mode, you can't even really, you can't come up for air to see that you're in survival mode. So I think a lot of it, I mean, back to my manifesto at Workloom, it's like togetherness. I think the trying to do it alone was so, so hard in new motherhood for me, especially in a pandemic and especially when I couldn't use my arms and all of these pieces. But I think it's like, it's almost like you have to advocate for it before you know it. And like, saying, "Hey, I need an hour," to my husband or a babysitter or whatever. Like, I just need an hour to be with myself where I'm not working, I'm not grocery shopping, I'm not at the gym, and I'm just gonna like free play. Like, do I want to read poetry? Do I want to, like some kind of pleasure practice? I mean, I'm not talking about that pleasure, but it could be. It
Good.
could be. Could be that.
Yeah, pinch ladies.
Yeah, I'm like, whatever makes you happy. But
Yeah.
like for me, I think it was actually that discomfort of like, what do I want to do? And for me, it was mornings because that's when I could easily get time. It was just like waking up an hour earlier and having, again, I call it a pleasure practice. And I'm laughing because my friend literally teaches it where it is self-pleasure. So it wasn't that for me, but it was like, literally, I have a little meditation nook and I would just read poetry and smell oils and breathe. And, but it was definitely like, it felt uncomfortable to be in that place as someone who was historically so connected to that part of me. It was like a real remembering. So, I mean, I think I'm still, if I'm being honest, I think I'm still in like I'm still remembering it. It's still resurfacing. But I think it's just that simple pull. It's not always a big glaring thing. It's like, fair enough, you book an hour massage. I love that. But sometimes it's just like, oh, I want ginger tea this morning. I usually drink matcha, but today I want ginger tea. Like that's an intuitive hit. That's just listening to what you want. And I think it's so easy, especially as mamas with morning rituals and kiddos, if your kids are going to school or not. But it's like we can kind of again get in our head of like this, you put the right foot, then the left foot, instead of like, no, but like, what do you want right now?
Yeah.
And something I recommend for clients is this practice. Do you know Keisha Urbaniak?
Oh my gosh,
You know?
Unbound. I love that book.
Is that I'm gonna reread it. I like it. It's
Oh,
so good.
yes. I need to link
Uh,
that in the show notes for this episode too.
yeah.
All you ladies, get that book.
Oh
Oh,
my God. I want to do her programs. I've only read her book and like follow her, but I just think she is fascinating. But
yeah.
she has an activity where it's like write down your desires. And if you don't, if it feels like you've kind of entered some type of like martyr territory in your motherhood journey and you're like, everyone's needs become before my own. And like, to sit down every morning and write shit that you want. Like literally, like, I want chocolate, I want world peace, I want jeans that fit better, I want a new water bottle. And like, because I think I actually love that practice. I find it almost like subversive because I feel like we're taught to just like make a gratitude list of everything you love about your life. And this radical idea, because a desire list is like, I
Yeah.
want more. I want
Yeah.
more. And I think that is so badass to like actively practice that. So that's a thing that really brought a lot of joy to me was like, oh, I'm just gonna write a list of things I want. Okay.
Oh my gosh, I love this.
Yeah.
Oh, everyone is
Yeah.
listening. We're all like immediately after this episode, let's go write what we
Yeah.
want down. Yes,
Yeah.
I love that. Well,
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, I know you studied the law of attraction, the law of assumption, like manifestation, and even just understanding neuroscience, that your desires are placed from your highest. They wouldn't be there if you didn't want them. And when you
Yeah.
disconnect from the wanting, you literally sever that channel to your highest, to God, to source, whatever you believe in.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, what a beautiful practice to just open up because the
Yeah.
wanting leads to receiving. So I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, how delicious. I mean, it's kind
Yeah.
of like, let's go back to the story where you're like, I think I want to go into business coaching. And then the next day you had those two emails.
Yeah.
Like,
It was nuts. I mean, I was like, it's like I was like smacked in the face. Like, I'm like,
yeah.
this is not a sign. This was like literally like comical. I mean, and it wasn't two people asking, oh, could I pick your brain? It was like two people saying, do you business coach wellness professionals? I was like, yes,
Yeah.
I do. Here's
Here's
my
my
link.
credit card.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take my money.
Yeah.
Oh,
It was wild.
yeah, that is so cool.
And also, I think like in that moment, it was like comical in that I was like, okay, great, got the sign, we're doing it.
Yeah.
And also just it gets to be that easy. Like it gets to be that easy. You know what I mean? And like whatever, there's like sometimes you have to set up some back end stuff, and there's gonna be like your who likes forming their LLC. Like there's gonna be some stuff that can feel like a heavy lift. But I think in general, when we're in our zone of genius, our zone of, I call it zone of aliveness, I think it gets to be easy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100%. I have a story like that, not with business, but like going into 2025, one of my goals, my desires, my wants was that me and my husband's relationship was spicier and sexier and just like more connected.
Yeah.
And, it'll be 10 years married this year and three
Yeah.
kids. So, with
Yeah.
that, you kind of get in the grind. And all I had to do was desire it. And I wrote it down a couple times in my journals and my 2025 list. And I kid you not, that frequency of desire and wanting, he read that subconsciously. And like, I mean, I didn't do anything except want it. And our relationship from like a month ago to now is like, hello. Like, I mean, man. But it's like, I think
Isn't
it's
that
crazy.
amazing?
You don't even have to verbalize your desire.
Yeah.
You just acknowledge it. You receive it,
Yes.
open yourself up to it, and it will
Yeah.
come.
Oh my God, yes. I have the same, I don't know if I told you that, but I have like the same journey of like I said, I share this very openly, like that sex hurt
Yeah.
after I got pregnant. Like
Yeah.
I can't explain it. I don't know what it was, but I just was like, oh, that's my body now. I can't, sex is painful. And like it was the exact same thing once. And it was always something like, oh, I'll get to it later. Like, oh, I'll figure out, I'll work with a pelvic floor specialist, or like I'll figure it out later. And I worked with my friend that does this friend that does pleasure work, and it was virtual, it was just breath work and talking essentially. I mean, like, like somatic practices, but it wasn't like I worked with a pelvic floor, dilator or something. There was nobody touching my body. But it was like same thing, just literally saying, I want to have a juicy, vibrant, like pleasurable sex life again. Like I want my body to literally be able to feel pleasure again. It was like a switch was flipped. And this is what I mean. My body was like, oh yeah, I remember. Like joy and pleasure is like your natural state. Okay, we got you. We forgot that you wanted that. Got it.
Wow.
So I love
Yeah.
that we're like on the same wavelength.
Yeah, it's so juicy. And I
Yeah.
think that's why, like, I love business strategy. I love business coaching, but I truly believe it's like, tell me who you are at the
Yeah.
end of the day.
Yeah.
I think that's more interesting than the business strategy because the business strategy will not work unless, you're tapped in and grounded and like,
Yeah.
actually, it was Sam. Sam and I met early on in my business journey and became instant friends. But I remember her saying very early on, like, actually, it might have been on a podcast. It was either on her podcast or mine. She said, the more
Uh-huh.
you grow, the more your business grows. And I remember that I was like, whoa, yes,
Yes.
yes.
Totally. Right. You
Grow
can't
yourself. Your business will inevitably grow.
100%. I was just thinking the other day, like, of kind of like my marketing focuses, and one of my friends was like, where are your clients coming from, like where are they finding you? And I was going through every one of my mastermind, all my one-on-one clients, every single one of them has some, either we've met in person or there's a degree of separation, like their best friend knows me in person, like. And is that a scalable marketing strategy? TBD, but also is like, oh, and what's funny is most of the people that I work with, I met in a social setting. I wasn't like, hello, I'm speaking about business coaching and somatic business practices here. Like, I have tons of methods, I have all these trainings. No, it was like me meeting at a mom circle where I have bloody nipples and I'm crying about how it hurts to have sex. And you know what I mean? I was just like
Yes, I love
humaning.
that.
And whatever, I'm not saying every space I was upset, but I'm giving the example of like, I
Yeah.
was just like being a real human. And I think that's it. We forget, like sometimes we get weird where we're like, oh, this is like Abby and Bree talking about like sex, or like how we met our hubs, or like your love of horses, or like whatever, right? Fashion, hot pink, like we're like loving it. And then we're like, okay, but now we're talking business. And I just think it's all one. It is. And it's like you, especially if you're a personal brand, especially if you're a service provider, oh my God. It's like people can hire it's like I could hire 100 dentists, but I go to my dentist. I mean, she's holistic and like biological, which I love. but she's just like kind. And you know what we talk about? We talk about what romance novel we're reading.
Oh, I
Like
love
she's
that.
always like, "Oh my God, girl, have you read this series?" And I'm like, "Tell me everything." And I'm like, "I would never change dentists because it's like, does she do the best filling in town? I don't freaking know. But I want to talk to her about what book she's reading and like, you know what I'm saying? It's like the human. It's the
Yeah.
human.
Yes. Oh, so good.
Yeah.
This actually, like, just unrelated, but related side note, at the end of Sam's weekend, when we were masterminding my next
Uh-huh.
project, like, it goes back to this of like, and don't worry, you guys, I'll be sharing soon. I'm actually working on it this week. But
Oh
like,
my
it
God.
all
Can't wait.
goes back to like your brand expression that when
Yeah.
you, like, it's not about what you're wearing or the material, but it's when you are expressed from
Yeah.
your inner child and just like your inner joy and alignment, like bam, that
Yeah.
shit's magnetic.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And we sustain, like, and I always think about sustainability, not ecologically. I mean, I love
Mm,
sustainability, but like
yeah.
our business is only, and I think you posted this the other day, like you can't fail if you don't quit.
Yeah.
And so if we can stay the course, and there are going to be really hard, weird days where you have a weird email or a conversation or conflict, and then it's like, okay, cool, what's going to keep you going? And
Yeah.
I think it's like, yeah, when we're having fun, then the weird moment or the weird email or the whatever, you're like, okay, that's a blip. I'm just going to handle it moving on because you have that life force because you're aligned. And I'm also saying this as someone who, what's today, February? Like maybe spring of last year was not in that place. I was a little in my head and I was in a little in the this is what I do and this is what I should do and I should keep going and da 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 instead of stopping and saying, okay, Abby, like what's alive for you right now? Like, what actually do you want to be sharing? What are you actually going through as a human? And I created a whole program called Come Alive. And it's all about like the mojo and that like your mojo makes you money. And we go into like again, there's tons of biz strategy in the program, but that did so well because it was me talking about real shit. You
Yeah.
know?
You were alive,
Yeah.
teaching how to come alive. Oh,
Yeah.
I love that.
Totally.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think too with the like burnout and like unsustainability in business, it is likely when you're following the 1, 2, 3 step methods and some other
Yeah.
strategy someone told you. I'm like, your best business strategy is doing what you said. Ask that question every day. What
Yeah.
makes, what feels alive to you today?
Yeah.
And then we were talking about the mastermind retreat too. I think asking when you're talking about content, you're like, what story do I want to tell today? It's as
Yeah.
simple as that.
Yeah. I know. I love how simple that is. Yeah,
Love
totally.
it.
I
Yay.
love it.
Amazing. Well, we're getting near to the end of the episode. So before we go into, because I know all of you guys who are listening are like, oh my gosh, I need to connect with Abby. I need to work with her. She's amazing. And
Yeah.
yes, she is.
Oh.
What would be some parting reflections, takeaways, lessons? I also just realized we should totally tell the story of your husband, like how you met your husband too. Can you do the accents, by the way?
Love it.
Okay,
Yeah,
guys.
my husband's British, so whenever I talk about him, it's like I'm not even trying, you guys. I just have to. It's like the accent comes out. My daughter does it sometimes too, which is really funny. She's
Oh,
5 and she's got a sick British accent.
that's amazing.
But yeah, I mean, kind of piggybacking on our convo around trusting your gut. I met my husband when I was having lunch with a friend. It was like, you're sleeping with your ex. It needs to stop. What do you really want? She was like, tell me who do you want? We know who you don't want. Who do you want? And I was like, it's a feeling. It's like and I started grunting. And you guys, I look out the window and my husband stands up. He was gardening. He was helping out a family friend gardening. And he stands up topless and he has a chainsaw and he's like chainsawing a tree stump. And to my friend jokingly, I'm like that guy, that's what I want. And we're like, ha ha ha. And then the whole meal, I was like, I feel like such a creeper. I can't stop looking at this gardener. I need to like learn more about him. And so, I mean, Bree knows the whole long story, but I ultimately like connected with him. And I mean, I don't know how much time, we probably don't have time for like the whole story, but the cafe owner knew him. It was so wild. She knew his parents. Like it was very divinely orchestrated. But my head, I had all these reasons to not think he was right. There was like someone that he was hanging out with that I wasn't close with, and I was like, I don't know about that. And then I had heard that he was only in town for a couple of weeks because he's British and was in town for the summer, but it was like my head kept being like, no, 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 no. But my body kept saying yes, 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 yes,
Your
yes.
body
And
kept grunting.
my body kept grunting. But
Oh,
yeah, my favorite part of the story is that so he was co-working that day with an artist who knew me. And so he thought the whole thing was so funny because the cafe owner went out and was like, "Hey Sam, this girl likes you. Like we need to know if you're straight and if you like girl. If you're straight and if you're single." And he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm both. Send her out. I want to meet her." And I found out later that what she actually told him was, "You're driving my friend crazy." And so by the time I come out, he is like, I want to meet this girl. Like I am excited. And so this dude that he was working with like thought it was so funny. He dropped to his hands and knees and starts making goat noises.
my
So
God.
I walk out. I'm so embarrassed, but also like this guy is such a hunk. And so the guy he was working with is going making goat noises. I'm like so uncomfortable. I walk up to Sam, my now husband, and I'm just like, and he looks at me, and the first words he ever said to me just takes his gloves off and he leans on the fence and he goes, "Should you and I fuck off and make goat noises without him?" I was just like,
You're like,
yes.
yeah.
It's like, yes, never been asked that before. But yeah. And I mean, it's just like so wild, the way that, throughout the story, the way that I was like, oh, he's only in town for 2 weeks, or oh, like, I had a friend that was like, oh, he's just trying to get laid, he's just a party boy. And like all of these things that people have in their head. But it was like the way I describe it, and I said this on our wedding vows, there was like a cord on my belly button. Literally, like my belly button, there was something about it that pulled me to him. Like when I first saw him, I couldn't even see his face. He was like turned around, and I was just like, that guy.
Wow.
And it's so wild. So, I mean, like literally, I manifested him. I mean, it was just so wild. And I don't know. I mean, there's so much more to say there, but yeah, it's a pretty magical
Oh,
story.
so fabulous.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that story is exactly what we were talking about this
Yeah.
this whole time. So I love
Yeah.
it. I love it.
Yeah.
On that note, any quick parting reflections or, for thinking about the women who are listening, a lot of them are moms, a lot of them are in business. Any
hmm
words of wisdom or reflections that you want to pass on?
Mm. I think it's back to like what I wish I had someone telling me, which is that you don't have to do it alone, which is so much about what you espouse with the whole VA world, but also, general biz ownership and creative life as a mama. And I think that the two things I'll say is that it gets to be easy. You get to get support, and that there's so much power in centering our intuition and our body wisdom to guide our decisions, and that don't get pulled away with all these methods and formulas and ManyChat and what automation do I like. I love that shit. And also, it gets to be as simple as that guy. It gets to be as simple as, oh yeah, I want to do this thing. And I think that we get to be agile as biz owners. We get to follow our joy, and that that's enough. That's enough to start a biz. That's enough to be hired. That's enough to create value in the world. And I think I wish I had someone saying that to me more. And I also wish I had someone normalizing investing in support, because it wasn't until I was like multi six figures that I hired anyone.
Wow.
I think actually, I had an intern that did a couple hours a week for me, like bare minimum, when I should have had a full team, but I was like just bootstrapping it. And I just think, oh my God, it could have grown so much faster, had I just let go of it and brought in the village that we know we need as mamas.
Oh, I love that reflection. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hire early. Even because
Yeah.
I think though people think hiring equals thousands of dollars a month and like a full-time
Yeah.
person. I'm like, no, you
Yeah.
can literally start 30 minutes a day, like a couple hundred
Totally.
dollars a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. And it's like, and I always think too, the whole reason we started our own biz is to do more of what we want, right? The more of what lights us up.
Yeah.
And so if you are hitting your head against the wall trying to figure out Canva, and you're actually an accountant, and you're like, listen, you being good at design is never really going to be directly applicable to your accounting skills. Go hire a designer that can make it in their sleep, and you can spend that 4 hours a week making money or whatever, making a new system. I just think fair enough if you want to learn Canva or fair enough if you want to learn something. But I think going right to the expert, and that's the other thing I love is like the thing that stresses me out is someone else's like wet dream. Like it's the thing that they're like, oh my God, I wish I could do that all day. And so it's like, give someone else that gift, you know? And I always have so much more fun. Like I brought in a friend of mine, Danny Kreef, to help me with copy. And I love writing. I love words. It felt like something I could never outsource. And when I was rebranding, I had, I don't know, a 1.5-year-old. I was like, okay, mama has, and I had a full client load. I was like, there's no time to pull out of thin air for this. And so it was literally just like a time, the reality of like time scarcity. I was like, okay, I have to hire a copywriter. And I hired her and it was so fun because she's writing and I'm like commenting on the Google Doc and I was still pretty involved, but it was like because I wanted to be. I could have just been hands off, but it was like, oh, I'll approve her stuff and like give her a oh, like, oh, I would use this word or like whatever. And I was like, I never want to do that alone again. That was so much more fun than just looking at a blank page by myself. Like, so I really thrive with that collaboration, you know? So yeah, it gets to be fun and you get to get support.
Yes. I mean,
And
going
the
back.
support can actually make you more money. I think we think
Yes.
it comes, like you're saying, we think it just takes away from our bottom line. But again, if who knows how many freaking hours I would have spent with a whole web rebrand for copy, I would have spent like, I don't even know, 20 some hours, you know, but instead I spent 30 minutes a week kind of like responding to her. And then I have all this time and capacity to do other things in my biz.
I love that. I love that. And it comes down to
Yeah.
the word you shared, togetherness.
Yeah.
Even in like your team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Totally.
Amazing. Well, on that note, I know you guys are all as in love with Abby as I am. Tell us about you have an amazing event coming up later this year. You have a
Yeah.
mastermind. You also mentioned doing some consults. Tell us all the
Yes.
things.
Yes. Oh my God. Okay. So my retreat is happening in November, the week before Thanksgiving, and it's called Biz on the Beach. And it's a somatic biz retreat. It is so yummy. I did it last year and I was like, oh my God, yes, we are doing this again. And again, this is something like I haven't found this. I haven't found this anywhere in the world. I found amazing conferences and amazing yoga retreats, but I'm like, where's the retreat where we wake up, we do breath work and yoga, there's a sauna and a cold plunge, then I get to go eat like organic tacos while there's like, I'm not even kidding you, there were whales jumping like every breakfast. I was like, it's almost like, and cue the whales. Like it was so stunning. It's this private boutique hotel. You know, it's got 12 bungalows. It's so intimate. It's just like stunning. And we get to hang out with badass, creative, visionary, powerhouse women. So it's like yoga by morning, biz strategy by day. You can go on adventures, go surfing. It's just like, again, it's so fun. So that's happening. We'll link it up. And then I run a mastermind. So this is my year-long mastermind. And it is a incredible space to get that togetherness. So whether you're wanting the cheerleaders and hype girls for the good days, or the cheerleaders and hype girls for the days when you're like, what the hell am I doing? And you're questioning everything. You know, it's like really that space to be in the shadow and the shine. And I lead strategy sessions. We have guest speakers. It is so, so, so yummy. I feel like it's just such a fun space. So those are two ways that we could connect. And we'll just, I have some space right now for chatting. So if you guys want to DM me to kind of see, like, would you be a fit for either of these spaces, or you want to jump on a call and chat about working together, we'll link it up.
Yay, amazing. Also, per our conversation today, I am planting the desire in my body that I want to be at Biz on the Beach. So I'm opening up to receive that. Heads up, world, universe, God. And
Yes.
anyone else who's listening, if you want to go to Biz on the Beach too, talk to me, talk to Abby, and hopefully we will all see each other there this fall.
Oh my God. Deal.
Yes,
That would be the
amazing.
dream.
I would. Well, thank you so much, Abby. This has been so much fun. We'll make sure for everyone who's listening, all the links are in the show notes so you can go connect with Abby if you want to go to the retreat. I'll join you there. All the things.
Yeah.
Thank
Sounds
you.
so good. Thank you, Bree. This is so fun. Love you.
Well,